I'm Philip Daniels.
I'm Joe Cardoza.
I'm Jeff Barnes.
This is The Perspective.
And this is The Perspective.
Welcome to The Perspective.
Welcome to The Perspective, and I am not Cardoza. I am Jeff Barnes. That is Phil Daniels, and of course, in the house, H-Town up. We're talking about AJ Jones. Welcome back, man. It's been a couple of weeks since we had you on.
Glad to be back, man. I appreciate y'all having me back on.
Anytime, man.
What's up?
Unfortunately, yes, Phil. Unfortunately, Joe's on assignment, so AJ's going to come in and once again save the day. We're pulling him out the bullpen. It's a football show, but I'm using a baseball reference. Nothing wrong with that. Hey, Phil, this is your week, Phil. You're a former Eagles coach, man. This is your week. Your former team is in the big game, man. So this is all you. You got to be feeling good, man.
He picked the wrong week to freeze on his week.
There he is.
I don't know what's going on with my internet right now, guys, so you got to bear with me. Go ask me the question again.
Yes. I said, this is your week. This your former Eagles coach. Your former team is in the game.
Hey, listen. You guys go ahead and finish the show. I'll be back. Okay, I'll be back.
All right, gotcha. All right.
That's that Kansas City audience trying to make him. They won't let him be great.
I'll be back though, man. Something ain't right, so be back.
Okay. All right.
So we're gonna let Phil reboot his system, but we got plenty to talk about with the Super Bowl, so we can fill in until he's ready. So
absolutely,
it's Super Bowl week. 57 for all of us that don't know Roman numerals like that. Tell me how you feel about this, because this is going to be bitter. It's going to be a bitter pill for me to swallow. I'm telling you right now, it's already bitter enough. So I'm already sipping the bitters bottle. You got to say myself here.
And I understand your pain, man. I understand your pain. I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. So, everybody had on the media side had walked Cincinnati into the Super Bowl, but guess what? They had to go through Kansas City in order to get there, and they did not get it done. And I know everybody wants to talk about the roughing the passer call and block in the back that happened on the return and all of that. But listen, at the end of the day, the Kansas City Chiefs did what they needed to do to get in. And, man, Philadelphia's defense had been amazing throughout the playoffs. In fact, I think 69 points scored, only 14 points allowed. If defense wins championships, they were on their way to winning that NFC championship. So I'm pretty excited. Jalen Hurts is like family to us down here out of Channelview High School, coached by his dad. Great young man. We just absolutely love him down here, man. So let me just tell you, it's a big weekend. We're celebrating this one like our own son is playing in the game.
Very understandable. Listen, I'm a fan of Jalen Hurts. Huge fan of him when we're going through the draft process with him. I was a backer of his. I know the only person I think that was a bigger backer than I was Emory Hunt. Emory Hunt stood on the table for Jalen Hurts and still standing on the table. But he's taking his victory lap with Eagles fans right now because he's saying, I told you this was going to be a good quarterback. Everybody wanted it down. Here he is. So, it's hard for me. It's a bittersweet pill because there's a lot of guys on that Eagles team I'm very big fans of as far as their ability, the players that they are. Nick Sirianni has won me over because he's a guy that when he came in that first year, it was really hard to really think that he knew what he was doing at first year until they caught fire. And then they come in this year and has made adjustment after adjustment after adjustment, found ways to get things done. I think the only thing that kind of blemished what was an amazing season was the 2 games where Hurts was out and Minshew came in and they couldn't find a way to win a game because they lost to Dallas and then to go out there and get shut out for virtually 3 quarters by New Orleans and lose that game was something that kind of, made it look like more if it's not Jalen Hurts, they don't seem to win. And I think what he does for this team, and I'll go over that in a minute, allows their offense to flourish. No doubt about it. I think they need that. But to be in this big game, the way they got there, okay, to dominate performance versus the Giants, then to turn around and dominate the hottest team in the league at the time in San Francisco. And granted, San Francisco had a real, heavyweight battle with Dallas the week before. Yes, is this enthusiasm a bad thing or people just in their feelings? It can rub you the wrong way. Especially when he says certain things. It rubbed Cowboy fans the wrong way when he beat them and goes around and goes, how about them Eagles? It rubbed Colts fans the wrong way when they came back at the last minute to beat him, and he yells to the crowd. That was for, of course, his former coach, Frank Reich. So it can rub people the wrong way. That kind of enthusiasm. Buddy Ryan was that way. Buddy Ryan would say a lot of things, and he was proud of his team. He was proud of his guys. I give Buddy Ryan a lot of credit for that. But if you weren't a fan of the Eagles, you hated his guts because he made sure he stuck it in your craw. I don't see that kind of vindictiveness from Nick Sirianni. I see a guy who's excited, who plays hard on his sleeve. He may not say that at the press conference, but you see it on the sideline. On the camera, I know what the F I'm doing.
Well, and Jeff, that makes sense because of how poorly that initial press conference went. I was at the press conference for DeMeco Ryans. He didn't have any Nick Sirianni moments. Nick literally sounded like he did not have a clue from that press conference. Call it nerves, just call it, reality. He didn't do well in front of the media and the fans and the organization. But he has done everything necessary to silence any doubters because all of that simplicity that it's going to be hard and it's going to be hard, but it's going to be simple. It looks pretty simple for them right now, man. They really look like they have something figured out that other teams do not.
Absolutely. And it seems that they're changing the questions when people have the answers. And that's something that's hard to match. You're going up against a team who, let's face it, nobody sees Kansas City as a defensive juggernaut, although for some reason their defense always shows up in the playoffs. It didn't show up all season long for the most part, right? Every year it's their offense saving the day, but every year, the past 4 or 5 years, their defense has somehow, at least in a big game or two, shown up. There's times where they've had games where they're barely on the field. You don't barely recognize that they're there. But especially this year, they were there versus Miami. They were there versus Jacksonville. Sorry, I'm getting my flow. They were there versus Jacksonville. Big stops in that game. They were there this weekend. Big stops versus Cincinnati. So you have to really look at this team and go, okay, finally the defense shows up in big moments and gets them to the big game. Can they do it versus this team? I think this matchup here is one of the toughest matchups for this defense because it's a blitzing defense. It's an aggressive defense. He puts a lot of people in a lot of tough situations. What he does is Spagnuolo with the blitzing and a lot of the man coverage it's going to put him in some bad matchups on the outside with those receivers. However, I think it does a good job of taking away their RPO game. And it's one of the things, the best things to do against RPO is play man. So this way there aren't those gaps between the linebackers and the DBs when you play those zones. So I think that's going to help with the RPO game. But that zone read that opens up the Philly offense is going to be big. And now as you have the extra week for Jalen Hurts to heal, I think overall you're going to see a healthy offense for the Eagles go up against this defense, which supposedly is getting better with Snead coming back as well.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. In other sports, we talk about the LeBron James teams when he was in Cleveland and Miami. they would almost get bored during the regular season, but baby, they'd be playoff ready when it was time. I feel that same way about the Kansas City defense. It reminds me of the Tony Dungy days back in with the Colts. Man, there were times when they looked abysmal on the field, but come playoff time, it was truly bend but don't break. They would make plays that most folks didn't think that they could make. It's almost like they held a separate playbook or part of the playbook for the playoffs. That's what I feel like we're seeing out of this Kansas City defense. Whatever people thought that they saw that they could expose from a regular season game, it wasn't there in the playoffs. This defense, with Jones leading the way, that brother is like a man amongst boys, man. When he gets his mind set on, I'm coming, you're not stopping me, we're going to get this stop right now, it has proven dividends like crazy for Kansas City. And their secondary, which had been suspect throughout times in the regular season, has been solid. So you're right, man. You're going to be looking at a very playoff-ready defense versus an offense that is getting healthier. With Jalen being healthy, we'll see whose game plan is going to succeed, come Sunday at 5:30 Central.
Indeed. And Phil's back.
Hope I'm good now.
Sound good? Let's roll with it. Whatever happens, man. We go down the rabbit hole together. So we're talking about this matchup this weekend. And we were talking about how we see the offense and defense playing out. Give us your perspective on this one, Phil. Oh, he's frozen again.
It's not right, man. It's not right. Yeah, Keith Richards. Keith Richards' comment right there with so again, it's like they got very short memories. Like somebody got to him and said, it's playoff time, so now I don't need you worrying about the plays that you miss. I need you to get back up, get focused, execute and make plays right now, because burning them one time doesn't burn them for the rest of the game. And I think that's what is proven to be the difference in this playoff run for them, because, man, they make big plays at the right time. Just look at that Cincinnati game.
Absolutely. And speaking of those guys, it's the perfect time for me to say it. So I'm going to take these off because I want to make a specific point about this offense and how Kansas City is going to match up. So I'm going to walk over here to the old school board, right? So when we were talking about Jalen Hurts in the zone read, all right? So what he does with this offense is put a lot of pressure on the edges. We were talking about it, right? These guys containing them, RPO, right? Zone read, everything comes off the same look, all right? So when you're doing that, if you're running a lot of zone, it creates the creases for when they run that zone read action. He can either pull it, throw it, run it, whatever he wants to do. He's going to do it based on what he sees the defense. So here's where here's why their running game is so much better with Hurts than it is when they've had their backup in there. And it's plain and simple. It starts with the action and what he does. Okay, so everybody knows with zone runs, you tend not to block the backside, right? We want to read this guy, all right?
Right.
No matter who it is, whether it's Clark, whether they put Jones there, whether it's Karlaftis, this guy's going to have the toughest job in the building, all right? Because he's got to read this. You get a little aggressive and chase the run, he pulls it and hurts you, all right? If you want to go upfield and worry about him, this running back has a two-way go based on the blocking, but he's going to read the crack of the center. If he goes this way and get the push, he's going to cut it back. If they're able to get the seal on the nose and get a push, he's going to bring it up inside. They'll get second level, and it's one-on-one with the safety. And this happens a lot with Gainwell. This happens a lot with Sanders. So they do a lot of great things, and it puts so much stress because you're playing 11-on-11 defense. Usually it's 10-on-11. Nobody accounts for the quarterback. You got to account for Hurts. This is the change in their running game that makes it so explosive, because it makes these guys play slow. They did it to Parsons. We saw Parsons wrecking teams left and right. They slowed them down with the zone run. All of a sudden, they're gutting the Cowboys' run defense. It is a big factor when you have an athlete that can throw and run at quarterback at this level, that he can break down your 11-on-11 defense and make you account man for man, and you don't have that extra man to help stop backside run and cut off the cutback. So you're going to see a lot of times where this is stuffed, he bounces it off of it because you got the push, He goes up for your quarterback, and there's a crease. All right. These runners are very good at reading zone. So this is why when you talk about their running game, he's very good at it. And it opens up a lot of things. Minshew could not do this. And that's one of the biggest issues they had. That's why their running game fell off a cliff when Minshew was in there, because that threat wasn't there.
Yeah, no, you're talking my language now, because I again, much lower than the level that you guys have succeeded on, but I coordinated an offense that averaged 33 points a game across from a defensive coordinator that only gave up 6 points all year. And the thing about that zone read, man, is you got to ride that thing in there. You got to slow that defender down that you've isolated and make him stop and think. If he does that for that long, you got him. And I say all the time, just because a team runs it doesn't mean they know how to run it. So you got a Jalen Hurts, you've got a running back, you've got linemen, you've got tight ends that know how to run that zone read to make it look like one thing, just to slow a guy down long enough for you to, use him the way you want to. And man, you said it perfectly. They know how to expose it when they get that read and that ride in there. If you crack down, then I'm going right where you left. If you stay right there, I'm handing it to him, and I'm riding him in there for 3 yards already. He's got another 2. 2nd and 5, I'll take that all day long.
Well, hopefully I'm fixed.
Welcome back.
You look good.
I don't know what's going on, man. I mean, I got computer problems, so I'm on my iPad, and it kind of gives some fits. But yeah, I agree with what you just said. And those situations right there, man, sometimes I feel like you just got to make the quarterback hand the ball off and let the linebacker play slow, and your D-line got to be the ones to handle that. They got to make sure they do what they got to do, close when they should be closing, just be where you should be, because that's the only way you're going to stop that run game. But I'll take my chance on stopping the running back over the quarterback or throwing that read option right there behind it with the quarterback where that linebacker is too fast and leaving. So he's going to be slow, but it's going to be up to that D-line to make some things happen up front to make sure they solidify and stop that run game and stop Hurts.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Big Phil, you're a D-line expert, D-line coach. So what are you telling your guys? Because again, if you're making that DN or outside linebacker, putting him in a position where he got to figure it out, there's going to be a lot of times he doesn't figure it out. What are you telling your defensive line when you got a Jalen Hurts who runs that read option so well?
Yeah, a lot of coaches like to tell their backside end that they do this feather technique where they shuffle down in there. And I just think that's the wrong way to play that. It's either you telling him to take the dive or you take the quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Or I like you taking the dive and get up to the quarterback. But either way, me personally, I would rather you, because I trust my D-line to go make plays and be where he's supposed to be. I would rather make the quarterback hand that thing off to the running back and take my chance with stopping that running back. Because once you get him running down in there and Jalen pull that thing, that's when it's dangerous, when that quarterback keep it around the edge and get going. And I also think that, just to him pull that thing and throw that pass right there, that linebacker leaving that spot, I'd rather for my linebacker be slow. So we got to do some things different with our D-line to make it work. You know what I'm saying? My thing is take that D-end for me personally, and we play a lot of high school kids that like to run this offense. So I had my D-ends. I want you all to make them hand it off. I want you to make Jalen Hurts hand the ball off. I would take my chances on stopping the running back, then have him keep it on the edge and get a big gain, or pull it and then let the linebacker be slow. Be slow. Let that D-end close like hell, go get that dive, or let him go get the quarterback and make him hand it off. Those are the only two options you got. But I'd rather them hand it off because I trust my D-line to make plays.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's what's going to take. You're going to have penetration on the inside. Yeah, you're going to need penetration on the inside to stop the inside run, to work the zone so they can't climb second level to get to your linebackers. With the blitzing defense, they're going to have to fill their gaps and stay in their gaps. That's one of the things. You can't get moved out of your gap. If you're going to blitz against this team, you can't get moved out of your gap. You've got to maintain your gap integrity. You got to fire through, and if you don't get it through it, you got to maintain it. You can't get pushed out of your gap because that's going to create a crease for that back to squeeze through. And of course, with a blitz, if you're blitzing and they get through, there's nothing behind it. So you got to maintain your gap integrity. It really stresses you.
A lot of times, offenses like to run that zone read to the bubble. They put the back away from. They'll run it to the bubble where that open space is. So what I like to do, what I think is good, they like to run it to the 2-eye side where it's a bubble outside of him right there. That B gap is open. So what you got to do is I would set my 3 technique away from the offset back and have 2 lines of defense where you got the 3 technique and you got that 2-eye or that shade coming up through there. So now you got 2 walls of defense to get through. Okay, if they flip the back at the last second, I would like to slap my guys to those gaps and still be in the same situation. You just don't want him to run to the bubble because that's what offenses try to do. They try to run into that bubble where there's a space there and you're getting them all kind of options there. So you want to take that away as much as you can. I like to set my 3 technique away from the back. And if they flip him, we got to have some kind of call to get our guys going the opposite direction. That's what I did in a lot of the high school situation. We played guys like that. I see a lot of the college guys doing the same thing. So I think that's the best way to play it. Put 2 walls of defense for that running back to get through and go play. And let your DN go take care of the quarterback.
So you bring up a good point because I can account for that first line of defense and I can get somebody to get off that first block and get down to the second level. But when you got a whole nother line of defense right there, now I got a problem. Now I'm looking at second and long and third and long, and that's not where you want, Jalen Hurts and Philadelphia's offense trying to cook. But I got to tell you, man, you said it earlier, Jeff, before you came back on, Phil, the fact that Jalen can throw the ball better than people give him credit for, it also opens up a whole nother problem because once you start doing that, that means some of those cornerbacks get peaky-eyed where they're looking a little more than they're defending, and Jalen can put the ball on somebody quickly, and now you got a whole nother problem. So it's going to be a chess match on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I like to take my chance because I know when you got an offset back, I know he's coming across the formation if they're going to run that, and I'll take my chances on putting the 3 technique away from the back, that 2-eye. In that A gap coming through there. So I'll just take my chances, man, because my thing is, we know where the back's going. We don't know, but what we don't know is he's gonna pull it or he's gonna throw it. We don't know that. So we're gonna take him pulling it away, we're gonna take that quarterback away with that DN, just go get the quarterback, make him hand it off. And if you want to throw it, linebacker play slow, we're good. Just make him hand it off. That's your best bet when you're playing a team like this.
That's valid.
Absolutely. That's valid. And most fronts tend to shade away from where the back is lined up because the ball has to cross face to get the ball. So what'll be really interesting is if they play with formations, you put the Y on the same side as the back, which naturally pulls your front to the back side, and you can still play the same game. You can still run your zone read that way. You can still run your RPO that way. You can do so many things to the defense because it's a natural shift. If they don't do it, if they stay with their heavy front away, shading away from the back, then you just run your counter to the tight end side and you can eat them up because what's happening is they're already giving away strength away from where your blocking is. So it's a lot of things they can do with this situation because they have the ability to do this with their quarterback. I think if you're Kansas City, you got to really take away a lot of the quick throws. You got to man it up. They got to play stouter on the outside versus the bubble screens, versus the tunnel screens off the RPO. But you got to make him hold the ball on RPO because what's going to happen is he's going to have to take off at some point. Now, you can't throw the ball once those linemen get past the yard down the field. So this is one of those things where if you're going to run RPO, it's got to come out quick. And if they can get him to do that, then they can control the RPO game. Then they can force him to traditionally throw the football. The quick 3-step passes, the 5-step passes. Well, it's a shotgun, so you're not really doing 7-step, but the 7-step timing. So get them to traditional timing passes. I think that'll be a lot better for them as opposed to trying to fight off RPO throws.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is that now what teams do is try to bring that tight end across to seal the edge, so you still can run that, right? Well, for me, what I teach my DNs. If anything come back across the formation to you, we know the back is offset to us. We're gonna jack up that tight end. We'll two-gap him. We have to. We'll jack him up, play the quarterback, and make him hand it off because we're not gonna let him seal us and get outside. So anything coming back across, just jack it up, and because if you got the back set to your side, and that's the only way. That's the best way you're gonna be able to play all that stuff.
Yeah, you bring up a good point because again, that's where Jones is so deadly with this Kansas City defense. If he does something that they didn't account for, if he gets through that gap faster than they thought, if he gets on that back faster than Hurts can pull that thing out. Now you've disrupted the whole play. And if they can get that kind of penetration, not just from Jones, but from different people on that defensive line, then they can disrupt the whole thing. But let me tell you, though, that's why they call it the RPO, because just as soon as you think you shut one piece of it down, now watch this. Now you got all the action in front of you, and you got a defensive back on the backside that ain't paying attention, and there's a quick backside slant. There's so many things that can be just additives off of the traditional RPO that can just make you if you're not deliberate, if you're not intentional, if you don't have your head on the swivel, you're going to end up being the one that got burned on that play.
So here's the next one. Let's flip the matchup, right? We talked about the Eagles offense versus this Chiefs defense. Let's talk about this Eagles defense versus this Chiefs offense, right? We don't have the same kind of quarterback where he's going to do a lot of it running the football and design runs like that. It's going to be on scrambles and things of that nature. Mahomes, we know he's coming off the ankle injury. He played well up until he got injured in that last game. Re-injured the ankle. He started limping again. Started to look a little limited after that point. But for the most part, he was fine. Now he has an extra week off, chance to come back again, play in this game. What can they do? Because the last time they went to the Super Bowl and lost was when a team could rush the passer with 4. And this team could rush the passer with 4. So this is a big challenge for this Chiefs offense as well.
Phil?
I think Phil's frozen. Yeah, you want to go first, AJ? Because Phil's frozen.
Yeah, let me just say, I was waiting to get to this part because that's why I said, man, Philly's defense has been so quietly dominant. I mean, I'm looking at the stats. Philly's coming in with the 3rd best defense in the league. And yeah, they made some big plays, but their physicality, man, their ability to get in and do exactly what I talked about Kansas City needs to do with Jones and just disrupt plays. Man, they really dominated San Francisco to the point where they got on their quarterback so hard he got hurt. It was not a bad play. It was not a dirty play. It was just real aggressive. It was just real, they just had that ears back. We coming. We're not gonna let you get comfortable in that pocket. If they can do that with a semi-slowed Patrick Mahomes, we're gonna have to see Patrick Mahomes pull things out of that bag that we haven't seen yet, because there's no way he's gonna be able to stand back there and do what he did against Cincinnati and in the game before that against this defense, because they don't play.
Indeed. Phil, we're talking about the KC offense versus this Philly defense. What's your perspective on that one?
The best play, the number one play for Kansas City is going to be first down. How many yards you get on first down, what you do with the first down. You don't want negative yards on first down, because with this Eagles defense, if you leave it to 2nd and long, 3rd and long, they're going to pin their ears back and they're going to come get you. So you're going to have to run the ball, and you're going to have to get something going on first down. It's going to have to be your short game, your medium game. Just throw quick passes. It's going to have to be runs and stuff like that. And if you go back and look at all the teams that had success against Philly and that defense, it was teams that ran the ball and stayed with the run. It was teams that ran the screens. They ran the quick game. Because one thing I know about run game, quick game, screen game, it takes the D-line out of it. It takes the secondary out of it. You got to go up and make tackles. You got to go out, and the D-line got to come run down. They got to run down people off game. That's exhausting. So you got to do something on first down. You got to get some yards on first down, positive plays on first down, and then stick with your run game, and then stick with your short passing game. Because when you go back to that Washington game, they ran it 44 times. I mean, they didn't gain a whole lot of yards, but they stuck with the run. They were getting 3-4 yards here or there. They'll pop one here or there, and then they'll take a shot down the field. So that's what you're going to have to do against this defense. You got to take that D-line, and you got to take that secondary out of it by throwing quick game, and you got to run the ball, and you got to throw screens. That's what you're going to have to do to beat them.
Indeed. Yeah. I think the onus is going to be on that Chiefs offensive line. And it starts with Zeus Jr. and Orlando Brown. Because the Eagles have a plethora of pass rushers. They're really good on the inside, but they're really, really good on the outside. We know how fast Hassan Reddick is off the edge and what he does to you. We know about Graham. All right, so they have plenty of edge rushers that could really, really hurt you on both sides. But Brown has got to hold up big time this week because you're not going to be able to get a chance to get help from these guys this week. There's not going to be any, chipping. You need all your guys out in the route quickly. You need to be able to do all the things you need to do with 5-man protection. You're not going to be able to keep the backs in consistently because it's only going to invite them to blitz you. So you got to get guys out in the route. You got to hold up one-on-one protection. And it's going to be on the 2 tackles, but especially Brown. If he's your money tackle, if he's your left tackle that you paid all, he's your main bookend, he's got to hold up one-on-one versus everybody they line up on him. One of his biggest weaknesses ever since Oklahoma has always been speed rushes. Well, guess what you're getting? A steady diet of. That's a balanced breakfast on that defensive line, right? So he's going to get tested every down, early and often, and he's got to really hold up on his own this time. Right now, did you ever play against Zeus Senior? Did you ever play over Senior?
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah.
When was in Baltimore. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was tough. He was tough, man. Long arms, man. Long arms.
Yeah.
I hated going against tackles with long arms that can hit you before you make a move. So yeah, he definitely he was good. He was a good player.
Yeah, and his son's even bigger. So it's like you look at him. He has those arms. That's what's always saved him with speed rushers because he doesn't have the fastest feet, but he's able to get those long arms out there. But it's when you're too fast and he can't extend is when you beat him around the corner. You can't have that this week. You got to keep Mahomes clean. In order to do that, he's got to hold up on his own. That's going to be the biggest key to me. It's the 5 guys total, but it starts with Zeus. So
yeah, I think you put it in real good perspective right there, because if you think about it, when Mahomes has time and can extend the play from there, he's dangerous. He's one of the deadliest guys in the game. I don't think he's going to have that kind of time this weekend. I mean, we saw a young man in San Francisco almost become the league MVP because they gave him time and he was able to execute at that time. But then we saw him in one game where he had no time and he was barely able to finish the game. So I just wonder if Mahomes is going to have that amount of time with that Philly defense, and if they're going to be disciplined enough to contain him so he can't get out of that pocket and do enough of what he does, to extend the play.
Do any of you guys see a way this game gets out of hand early? Because I do see it, and to me, it's more on the Philadelphia end. If Philadelphia is scoring early and often, and Kansas City can't figure out a tempo in the beginning of the game, and they get behind big early, I see it getting out of hand. I really do, because I don't see it the other way around.
The thing I worry about is the O-line being able to hold up against the D-line. I thought San Francisco they got a good O-line, and they weren't able to hold up. But they did some dumb stuff too, because they started blocking Reddick with the tight ends and those kind of backs and stuff. You can't do that. You got to block him with linemen. Put your linemen on the big boys and chip and do the things you got to do on the way out, because that's the only way you're gonna slow them down. Because the one thing about the chip block, they chip you a couple of times. It's gonna slow the end down, because you're gonna be looking for it. So they got to do that kind of stuff to slow them down up front. And
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. No, to his point. Yeah, to his point. They've got to be smart and trying to slow that defense down, and they can't try to get cute. Like you said, San Francisco trying to block with ends and running backs and stuff like that. That cost them their quarterbacks with an S, and it cost them. Yeah. So like you said, man, if Mahomes is running for his life, Philadelphia's offense is methodical, man. They are like a well-oiled machine. So they're going to do what they're supposed to do. And like you said, when they have to get away from that run, they got to, that they're going to throw it because they got to get back in the game. I can see it getting out of hand. If Philadelphia's defense eats like it did against San Francisco, this one could get out of hand easily.
Yeah, with my computer problems, I have to be short with my answers. So basically, they got to block them up front, man. And here's the thing. Like I always teach my end, don't let no tight end block you. He should never block you. And to put a tight end on an end, that's an insult. That's an insult. You should always beat them. They don't come down and do pass rush with us, so they shouldn't be able to block you in pass rush. So therefore, go out there. If you get one of those guys on you, you either take them to the quarterback or you beat them right now because they can't block an end on the edge like that. So that was just a bad. I guess it was a bad just way of thinking for San Francisco to put those tight ends on Reddick. Guy got 19 sacks. You gonna put a tight end on him? Come on now. That makes no sense to me. So I guarantee you that. I guarantee you that Kansas City gonna be a lot smarter, and Andy Reid gonna have those guys playing a different way. Even if they have to slide the protection, put it back on the outside the edge, chop, cut, whatever they can do, their chip, whatever they're gonna do that.
Well, I'll tell you this much: if Kansas City pulls this one out and their offense does the job, somebody better give the enemy a job, man. Stop messing around.
Well, they should give it to him anyway. He made it to the Super Bowl. He made it to the Super Bowl again. Yeah. You know, how many times can this guy make it to the Super Bowl or make it to the championship game, AFC championship game, and not get a job? Come on now. This man deserves a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wade Phillips has had 4 bites at the apple. He deserves one.
No doubt. No doubt.
And I like Wade. But very good DC. Head coach is somewhere in this area. The DC head coach, 4 bites at the apple.
Let me throw out a rumor. Let me throw out a rumor for you guys. I know y'all the real deal. Y'all don't deal in rumors, but let me throw one out there. What do you think about the rumor that the enemy's gonna stay right there and take over Kansas City when Andy steps away?
I've heard that as well, but how long is he gonna wait? It was like McDaniels had that same kind of thing in New England, right? Remember, he turned down Indianapolis. Oh, no, I'm good. Because the rumor was when Bill steps down, you know, it's your job. But he waited around another 4 or 5 years, and Bill wasn't going nowhere. Tom left before Bill did, and he was like, yeah, it's time to go. It's time to go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's hard in the coaching cycle when people want you to turn down the job because you never know how many more chances you're going to get, right? Opportunities you're going to get after that point. Keep turning them down. And when you're a brother, you barely get any as it is. So if you're a really strong candidate, it's kind of hard to keep turning jobs down because then they have definitely upset. He doesn't even want to be a head coach. We're never going to waste our time. They're bringing somebody else. So,
but is he getting off? That's what I'm wondering is if he's actually getting off.
No, he's not getting them.
Yeah.
No. He's not getting
because truth be told, watch this. Truth be told, he's the best candidate for that Arizona job, but he's not even a finalist for the Arizona job. Nobody can work with that young quarterback in Arizona like Eric Bieniemy. But you know, they some of these owners and general managers have tunnel vision on what they want, what they like, and it's a copycat league, so they're still trying to find the next Sean McVay. And you know, look at what they end up with. They end up with a Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, only one McVay clone has worked out so far, right? And that's the guy in Cincinnati who made it to the Super Bowl last year. So, you know, everybody else who they wanted to be the next hot Sean McVay, and how's that been working out for the rest of them? Well, Minnesota did win this year, so we can say that. But Art Smith in Atlanta, anybody buying that stock? No. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I get tired of defending him when they talk about it. Oh, Andy Reid is the offensive coordinator. He's not really the offensive coordinator. When Andy Reid is doing my favorite thing, like Andy Reid is standing there going, you're not calling plays if it's above the sheet and your lips aren't moving. Okay, the guy that's calling his plays has got his mouth behind it, and you see him calling plays. All right, you know. Which I never understood that.
Yeah, I think that's just rumor, you know. You know, I feel like Andy's probably going to have to do another year after this one. And I feel like somebody else is going to take it over, but it won't be Bieniemy. I think Bieniemy's he's out there interviewing for a lot of jobs, and that just signs that he's thinking about leaving. So, I mean, if he wasn't interviewing so much, I would think that he –
got him again.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna hear more from Phil. We're gonna take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with more. That's all right, Phil. You're gonna take commercial You can play around with it when we come back.
Yeah, let me
Bill's
play
never
around a
here.
little bit.
Yeah,
Let me play around with this a little
I can pay some
bit.
bills around
This frustrating right here.
You got it. We'll be back with more.
Hey, football fans, we have a great offer for you from one of our newest partners, FanDuel Sportsbook. Sign up now for a new FanDuel account by using our special link located in the description, and you will get a no-sweat bet up to $1,000. That means that you can bet up to $1,000 on your first wager risk-free. FanDuel will give you the amount you wagered back in free bets if you lose. So go ahead and bet on your favorite team this Sunday, and even if they lose, you are taken care of. To claim this special offer, just click the link in the description and create a new account. Then, make your first bet on whatever you like. That's it. Win some money at FanDuel today.
He gives me a lot of Allen Iverson vibes.
And think about how Harden, Westbrook, and KD have shook up the league.
A different kind of basketball up here. We call that a play on.
There is no trade market for Russell Westbrook. No one's interested in him.
He might be a great assistant, but it's like so many coaches in the NFL. Great coordinator, not so great as a head coach.
And we are back here on The Perspective. Of course, we're going to finish talking about the Super Bowl before we move on to some other news. But Phil, let's finish your thought that you had before we went to commercial.
Yeah, I was just saying. I just think it's a rumor because he's interviewing for too many jobs, and I think he knows he's going to get an opportunity somewhere down the road to leave and coach somewhere else. I just think that Andy probably got one more year. He probably going to turn it over to somebody, but it won't be Bieniemy, because if Bieniemy was the guy, he wouldn't be going out to interview so much. You know what I'm saying? He would be turning down jobs, so that I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I'm stay put.
Indeed. Well, speaking of coaching jobs, somebody just got a coaching job last week, and we talked a little bit about that. And he's already setting the tone. How about that? He ain't even been on the job a week, and he's already telling you how this locker room is going to be this year with Russell Wilson. When asked about the press conference, he said, plain and simple, I've never heard of a guy having a staff in a building, and that won't be the case while I'm here. So setting the tone already. AJ, how you feel about, Coach Payton coming in and immediately setting the tone, saying this is my locker room?
That's what he had to do, and that's what he has the cachet to do. He's Sean Payton. It's not like he is a young rookie coach trying to figure out, how he's going to do this, how he's going to do that. Sean Payton has that type of credibility to do that, and he, I believe, is exactly what Russell Wilson in Denver needs. We're not talking about, everybody's comparing Russell Wilson to what he did in Seattle. Man, he's in a whole new city, whole new office. He's probably just trying to go figure out where his favorite sushi is, and people are holding him accountable for what he did in Seattle. I believe the best thing for Russell Wilson in Denver is a Sean Payton. So I hope there's no friction between Russell and Sean. Coach Payton saying, now you're not going to have your own quarterback staff in the building. You're going to work with me. You're going to work with our staff, and we're going to get this thing right. So I got no problem with it. He's the right guy. He's going about it the right way, and there's no questions. There's no doubt. We know who's in charge.
How about you, Phil?
I should just let y'all talk, because when y'all talk, nothing happens. So yeah, I think I agree. Sean Payton is doing it the right way. It's called discipline. You know what I'm saying? You got to have that throughout the whole organization, throughout all the guys, because when some guys see Russell Wilson doing his own thing, and he got people coming in the building, and he got his own office and stuff like that, it just caused some things amongst the other players that they start to hate on him a little bit. They don't like that stuff. So some of that stuff you saw on the sidelines last year could be the fact that the players are getting tired of him having his own way. So Sean Payton doing it the right way. He's coming in there. He's going to create some discipline amongst the team. He's not going to favor any players. All these guys are the same. They all playing for a common goal, and that's to win the Super Bowl. So he's going to come in there, straighten some things out, and that alone can win you at least 4 or 5 more games if you just discipline alone and that nobody's being favored in that situation.
Let's ride.
Listen, you can always tell the Parcells guys, right? That's typical Parcells playbook. It's my locker room. I'm coming right in and starting it my way. Belichick's the same way. Sean Payton's another Parcells disciple. You know, those guys always come in and they immediately grab the locker room by the throat and they tell you they lay down the law. So I don't blame them for it. Listen, this is you got to get control of the situation. You have a veteran quarterback who had his way because last year that's what the guy was there for, right? He was supposed to bring in his buddy from Green Bay and let him have his way. When they couldn't get him, well, this became the new guy to have his way. The quarterback's going to dictate. Right? You're not going to get that kind of control from Hackett because that's not the kind of coach he was, right? And they don't come off that tree either. His father was a different tree. Those guys don't come off that tree. There's a guy that comes off the Parcells tree, and he's always coached that way. Granted, he gave Drew Brees some input in how they did things with the offense, not with the locker room. Drew Brees was allowed to run the locker room based on the way Sean Payton wanted it, right? Jameis Winston comes in. He didn't have as much say in the offense, but you know what? You didn't have that much power in the locker room either. This became Cam Jordan's locker room. This became, those guys' locker room. But he knows exactly who he wants to be the leader. He's going to make Russ work to be the leader. And that's something that hasn't happened since early Seattle. And that's something that needs to happen now. This team needs it. You had a lot of young players that just didn't have leadership, and it showed on the field. All those young receivers, the Suttons, the Judys, all those guys really needed leadership, and it just didn't seem to happen. And I know the meme that went around was viral of him getting the dirty stare on the sideline from his running back there, Melvin Gordon, although he should have been staring back at Melvin Gordon for fumbling the ball all the times. But, I think that's one of the things that we're going to see this year is you're not going to see all the antics that last year, like on the sideline, all that stuff, because the locker room is going to be a totally different place. And it's all going to be about you got to please this coaching staff and this coach, not just your quarterback, not just your coach, not just your team leaders. No, the team leaders are there to enforce what the coaches want. Your guys are there to make sure that you're living up to the standards this head coach wants. And I think that's what we're going to see this time around. It's going to be a totally different environment. So kudos to Sean Payton for coming out right away and once again, laying down the law, putting his stamp on.
I think Denver is about to be the problem that everybody thought they were going to be last year. I think that defense and now the offense is going to be run a lot better than it was last year. They're about to be the problem in the AFC West that everybody thought they might be last year.
Yeah, I mean, they had talent. I think you get Tim Patrick back this year. I think that's going to help the receiving core as well. I think that they gave a little away on defense when they gave up Chubb. I know people were saying, he didn't perform. He had a lot of injuries, unfortunately. But when he was healthy, he was a factor. He and Gregory would have paired together. But unfortunately, Gregory wasn't any healthier than Chubb was last year. Chubb was the healthier of the two. And you paid Gregory a lot of money. So I know a lot of people in Dallas are saying, whew, we dodged that bullet. They got through all right without him. But, when Eddie Gregory's a healthy player and fully focused on football, he's a problem. The problem is he wasn't healthy last year. They got to fix some things. I think that you'll see a different offense this year. I think you will, because you're going to see an offense with real direction.
Right.
The fact that the quarterback was so heavily involved in directing your offense from a scheme standpoint, from a game plan standpoint, you have to wonder why this guy got a head coaching job there when he was supposed to be an offensive guru, right? This is a second generation offensive guy. He just got hired again as an offensive coordinator. You know how I feel about NFL bloodlines. Not everything passes down. So some people think that this passes down though. So he got the head coaching job, didn't work out. This is. I think it'll be a marketably better team this year because the discipline, the direction will be concise, it'll be clear, These guys will be a lot more focused on being a unit as opposed to going out there and trying to just play ball as individuals. So a team that was in the preseason so high on being a team didn't play like that during the regular season, which is so funny.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I believe we lost Phil. I hope he gets back on before we go because we'd love to get his final perspective. But we're going to jump to ours. So, what is for our freestyle segment? What is your perspective this week?
Man, I got to tell you, I had a couple that I was thinking of. One was very HBCU focused, but man, I tell you what, D'Amico Ryans coming in Houston like I can't even call him the prodigal son, the favorite son coming home, especially given what he did defensively at San Francisco, especially seeing how he developed players out there in San Francisco. He talked about helping a third-round player become an all-pro at the linebacker position and how much that all by itself meant to him. And to see his opening press conference where the press room was filled with former players, current players, local leaders, and the media, that just tells me that they got one thing right. Bringing him back has given this city hope that we have not had in a long, long time. I did not like the fact that D'Amico got his first chance under this leadership, and I've said that to their faces, but I love the fact that it is D'Amico Ryans because he is one of those brothers that I really believe he's going to get the job done. So, hey, just right now, we happy down here in Houston.
All right, so I'm going to circle back around to where we started the show this weekend from my perspective. And it's about the two guys. Everybody loves to talk about the quarterback position. Well, this is the first Super Bowl, as people like to point out, where you have two black quarterbacks going head-to-head in a Super Bowl. And it lets me know how far we've come in the National Football League. I remember when Doug Williams won in Washington, how big it was for a black quarterback to win in the National Football League. I remember how hard it was for Warren Moon when he was in Houston, how the hard time he got. I remember the hard time that, despite the fact that I'm not a fan of Buddy Ryan and the Eagles, I remember the hard time that Randall Cunningham got and still gets from the media for his time in Philadelphia with the great things that he did on the field. He's still disrespected. He deserves to be a better legacy than people give him in Philadelphia. And they always talk about, they couldn't win in the playoffs. Well, teams win in the playoffs.
Right.
He played in one of the most difficult playoff games ever, the Fog Bowl. Okay, people forget that. I mean, the part of his playoff legacy is the Fog Bowl. Losing to the Cowboys when they were winning Super Bowls. How many teams? Brett Favre couldn't beat the Cowboys when they were winning the Super Bowls. Right? But nobody complained about it. Like the black quarterback now, because the position calls for a different level of athleticism, right, is in vogue, right? We want the guy that could run as long as he could throw. We could change the offense now. We can add the college elements, as we talked about earlier, all right? But yet, when it still comes to certain things, we are looking at quarterbacks and still in the draft valuing certain characteristics over others. We're still looking at certain black quarterbacks and still saying they can't. And at this point in time, with what we're seeing now in the NFL, that should be obsolete thinking. Good. It really should. Okay. And we're still not past it because there's still a lot of it out there. I think one of the hotbed topics when we're talking quarterbacks in the draft is Anthony Richardson. And everybody's talking about, he's not a first, and he's not. And the reason why he's not a first round pick is not because, he can't throw the football. He can throw the football. He's just not a developed passer yet. He's a project. And you can have a high grade on a project because you're projecting upside, right? We do it all the time. Right? For quarterbacks, no matter what color they are. But when it comes to certain black quarterbacks and they look at them as a project, they're dinged for it as opposed to a white quarterback. Josh Allen was a project, was still taken high in the first round. Okay.
Yes, sir.
There was no way you expected Josh Allen to come in and throw for 4,000 yards the way he has done now. It took him 2 years to get to the point where he could do that. So overall, we have to still get past some of the old school thinking when it comes to football. You have this situation this weekend where we have 2 quarterbacks of color competing for the biggest prize in the football world. And it's an amazing moment, and I want people to cherish it. Don't just look at it and go, well, it is, it's because they're black, we're making a big deal. No, it is a big deal, right? Because this has happened so many times for white quarterbacks. That's just how it was. We weren't allowed to play the position for many years. Now that we can, okay, you have the ability to have 2 black quarterbacks going at it for the biggest prize in football. It's a moment to one, appreciate. It's a moment to celebrate. But think about the fact that it could happen again. When it happens again, it won't be as big a deal anymore, right? Because it's happened. It got past the one time it's happened, right?
Yeah.
These guys, one is the current, right? And Patrick Mahomes, he is the current of the NFL, right? Jalen Hurts is the future. Right? If he continues on this arc that he's on, he is going to be the future. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. Okay, so there are guys that like Mahomes who've been around a few years. He's the current standard bearer. It is not Josh Allen. I'm sorry, people. The people want to put him up there. He is not the standard bearer. Patrick Mahomes has accomplished more than Josh Allen. Okay, it is not Joe Burrow, although he has played amazing. He has not surpassed Patrick Mahomes yet. So right now, your standard bearer is Patrick Mahomes. Okay, Tom Brady is officially retired. You can't even say it's Tom Brady anymore. At the quarterback position right now is Patrick McCann. Hurts is showing that he is right now potentially your future. Yeah. So because of the evolution of the position, the evolution of thinking at the position, and I'm highly encouraged by where that's going. And if we could just continue to get past that fully, instead of still looking at times at certain prospects and going, I don't know, he's still an athlete playing quarterback. But if you're judging him like you're judging any other quarterback, you're going to look at evaluation, not just because he's a mobile quarterback.
Right.
Phil,
hey,
we're giving our final perspective, man.
Hey, man, I'm not going to give one. I'm just going to say, I got all kind of internet problems right now for some reason. So you guys finished the show strong, man. And I appreciate you guys for bearing with me tonight. But hopefully next week it'll be a lot better, so I'm going to get this fixed some kind of way. But hopefully it'll be a lot better. But you're right. I definitely agree with everything you just said. Like, this is a special moment for a lot of people, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you got Kelsey and his brother playing each other. You got the black quarterbacks. You got a lot of things going on in this game. You got Andy Reid playing his former team. There's so much going on in this game. So it's going to enjoy the game, everybody. I can't stay on long because I know I'm going to cut out. But you guys finish strong. And next week I'll come back with a better connection. Everything would be good to go.
Before you go, we got to get your predictions.
Oh, man, I said I wasn't going to predict this game, because I can see it going either way, man. But if the Eagles defense come play like they've been playing, and they don't, if Kansas City don't run the ball and don't do the short passing game, I think the Eagles going to win the game. I pretty much think so. Now, I don't count Andy Reid out, because Andy Reid's a great play caller, him and Bieniemy. They're going to come up with a scheme, and they're going to come up with a great scheme to beat them. So it can go either way, but I'll just go with the Eagles because they've been the strongest team this year.
All right. So one vote for the Eagles. Well, all right. Well, we got Phil's vote. How about you, AJ?
I've been steadfast and unmovable, man. Eagles. I'll go 27-24 Eagles over Kansas City. And somebody said it comes down to a field goal. I believe that, but it comes down to a field goal from the Eagles to get the win.
All right. So I was 0-2 last weekend. All right. I was 0-2. Well, the weekend before, right? Championship weekend. Before that, I was 9-1. It's been emotional picks for me with the Eagles. All right. And I've used this GIF a million times. I'm gonna use it again because this is exactly how my face is gonna look if they pull this one off. Right? And it is. I am traumatized from Buddy Ryan. I really am. So seeing that. Plus, I have several friends. One of my coaching buddies is from South Jersey. Grew up an Eagles fan, despite the fact that his father actually played for the Washington, formerly Redskins. All right, he grew up an Eagles fan. All right. So yeah, I get peppered by those guys on social media. So we're looking at the matchup. I'm leaning towards. I need some water to say this. Hang on.
Philly can't say it, Big Philly can't say it.
We already know that. We already know.
Spit it out, man.
I am leaning heavily towards the Eagles. I'm leaning heavily towards the Eagles.
We're proud of you, Doc. We're proud of you, man.
But I will, before the game, be doing my Godzilla rain dance, hoping that Kansas City can work some mojo and pull this off and save me a lot of heartache for the next season starts. But just the way this matchup is set up, the way the Eagles are playing defensively, I just think that it's gonna be a tough. It has to be perfect to beat them. You can't come in there and make those mistakes because you're not going to get those mistakes in return from the Eagles. So you got to come out and play perfect. Kansas City is capable of doing that. Do I trust Steve Spagnuolo's defense to do it? It's hard to do. That's a hard limb to walk out on. So I am leaning towards Philadelphia, but praying to the high heavens that somehow, some way, that Team Red can sneak it out of there. I will not be disappointed one bit. But I tell you right now, while Philadelphia will be celebrating, I will be sitting there very, very stone-faced looking at the team like that because it's a hard pill to swallow. And I still haven't swallowed it. It's still stuck in my throat saying Eagles win the Super Bowl. So
we heard you. We heard you. We heard you loud and clear.
Yeah. Trust me, if I did that on social media that I said that, trust me, they'll be sharing it for days. And then they'll be reminding me for the next 7 months that you said this. Okay, so yeah. This is and to make matters worse, my sister is rooting for the Eagles. My sister, my own blood. So yeah. And my other sister is a KC fan. So that's the other part about it. So yeah. It's kind of like a civil war in the family. So, yeah. But we've taken up enough people to release them back to their normal daily lives. So we will find out if Joe gets to join us again next week. You know, right now he is being held captive by corporate America. So I won't shout out which corporation has him tied up right now, but we appreciate AJ coming in and holding it down, man. Listen, like we said, you have carte blanche to come back, man. You can come back.
All you got to do is
carte blanche.
Just reach out. Yeah, just reach out, man. I'll be more than happy.
We'll throw up the signal for you, man. I got the H on. I got the H on the spotlight, ready to go. Yeah, so you know what.
Well, AJ, I'm glad you were here because it'd be tough for him to do it by himself.
Yeah, because
I had you back. I had you back.
Yeah,
I can talk. I don't know if I can keep an audience captivated. You know, not like it'll probably be like Blazing Saddles when he's talking to a kid that's falling asleep in a chair. And that'd have been me. Yeah, I love to keep my audience riveted, right? But it's been a great night, guys. great job again. And of course, yes, it is painful, Greg. It is painful. Yeah. But Greg enjoyed the show. Everybody else enjoyed it, and we'll be back with more. We're going to let you know the schedule for the off season when we get to that point. We are not going away for 6 months. We will be around. So we'll let you know the new schedule next week. I believe we'll talk it out with Joe and find out when we'll be back. You get to see our smiling faces, although you get to see me every week on MBS Draft Central on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. here on the Team MBS network. So shameful plug. So for Phil Daniels, for the man, the myth, the legend, AJ himself, Mr. Jones, Andre Jones. I am, of course, Jeff Barnes, and this has been The Perspective. Take care, everybody. Enjoy your Super Bowl, and remember to drink responsibly. Take care, everybody. Have a great night.